Hello, good people, and welcome to AVID Unit 4 on public speaking. So we just finished up our argumentative essay in our last unit in AVID, and now we are going to turn to speeches. So we've done written word, and now we're going to do spoken word. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so when we talk about speeches, what's even the point of making a speech? What is the purpose of us getting up and maybe embarrassing ourselves, maybe not? All right, we are trying to express ourselves with spoken word. Instead of typing how you feel about a subject, we are going to say how we feel about a subject. You're also trying to persuade the audience to feel the way that you feel. So in our last unit, we talked about having an argumentative essay where your opinion is the opinion and that is it. That's the only way to think about things. You are stating your opinion as fact. This time, you're trying to persuade the audience to feel how you feel. So the tone that we use, the words that we choose to use as well on our audience, that's going to be a little bit different. So instead of you being like very aggressive, break the door down, this is how you should feel, and kind of just like being very bold and in your audience's face. This time around, we're going to be a little more gentle with our audience. We're going to make sure that by the end of the speech, they feel the way that you feel. You can still be passionate. You can still have strong wording. You just aren't going to be quite as forceful. You're also going to make sure that you back up your claims with evidence. When you make a speech, if you just like spout off and say the way that you feel, that's all fine and well, but it has more impact if you back it up with some evidence. So if you are looking for a good speaker or you're like, oh, that was a good speech, what are some qualities that you look for? Go ahead and put that over in the margin in your note sheet. All right, so some do's for speaking. Make sure you make eye contact. You should not be looking directly at the ceiling or directly at the floor or at your hands or whatever. Make eye contact with people, but not in a creepy way. Move around what's called your power zone. So pick a space that's usually like 6 feet, so kind of like 2 steps to your left, 2 steps to your right, 2 steps forward, and that's your rectangle that you need to kind of bump around in, called your power zone. All right, you need to make sure that you have inflection and tone. You can't just talk like this for 3 minutes and expect people to be fine with it. All right, you're not a robot. You are a human. So make sure that you are like raising and lowering the pitch of your voice. Make sure that your tone is correct. If your speech is meant to persuade someone, you should be talking to someone as if you're trying to persuade them of something, not as if you're trying to pick a fight. Okay? Positive body language is also there. Make sure that you're not like crossing your arms over your chest the whole time. Make sure that you're kind of like keeping your arms open, that you're using your hands, but not to a point where it's distracting. Make sure that you are making facial expressions that people can see and they can identify with. Project your voice as well. Don't be quiet, all right? Make sure that people in the back of whatever room you're in can hear you. Make sure that you project your voice. Whispering speeches do not cut it. All right, I'll link these, the good speech down below and the not so good speech down below as well in your lesson. All right, so some don'ts. Don't speak softly. Listen, you got a whole audience to convince to feel the way that you feel. Speaking softly is not going to help you do that. Do not make a claim without any evidence. If you say, I don't know, Moe's is better than Chipotle. Okay, why? If I'm like, Moe's is better than Chipotle because in the past 3 years, Chipotle has had 7 food recalls and Moe's has had none. You're more likely to remember the fact that I told you about food recalls rather than just like, oh, I feel like this thing is better than that thing. Okay? So don't stay in one spot. Don't stay still. Make sure that you're moving around at least a little bit. If you are doing like the news or whatnot, if you're like a news anchor and you're just reporting the news to people, sure, stay still because we're not worried about you, we're worried about the news. But if you're trying to persuade someone, you can use body language and you can use movement as a tool to help people be persuaded to feel how you feel. All right, also make sure that people are tracking you and that people are paying attention. So if they're like staring off into space and you're staying still, they have nothing to look at. They have nothing to draw their eye one way or the other. So you got to make sure that if you're up and speaking, that you're moving around. All right, do not go on tangents. Stick to your point. All right, if you got a point, make it. All right, get there, get to the point, make your claims, get your evidence, get in, get out. Okay, that's some don'ts. There's a not so great speech. All right, so there is our just kind of some basics about public speaking. And in our next lesson, we'll get into passive, aggressive, and assertive statements.